morning Year 6 and welcome to our Really Looking unit. Now you're probably asking yourself, what does really looking mean? Well, each week you will be set a challenge and the challenge will be explained on the teaching video. But each challenge has 3 elements to it. And the first element is to go outside. Today it's lovely and sunny actually, it's Sunday today, and a little bit cold. Put on your coat, put on your scarf, put on your hat, really doesn't matter what the weather is, it's really good for you to get outside. Now you could do this on your daily walk, bike ride, trip to Cedars Park, or even in your back garden if you haven't been able to get out on a walk. The second element of the really looking challenges is to look closely. Now what I mean by this is that you look really closely at your environment and your surroundings, and maybe you spot something that you haven't seen before, or maybe you look at something in a different way. It will all be explained in the challenges. Now the third element of the Really Looking unit is to be creative, because when you're completing your challenge, I want you eventually to produce a photograph. Now, photography is not something that just takes seconds. It can take photographers weeks or months to capture the very best image that they want to capture. So I'm hoping that when you photograph your challenge, you do take your time so that you produce something that you're really proud of and really shows how you have approached the challenge. So if you watch the teaching video, all will be explained, and I look forward to seeing your challenge photographs. This week's really looking topic is called natural frames. Now, when we put a picture up on the wall, a photograph, a piece of art, we often put it in a frame. Why do you think we do that? Why do we put pictures and photographs in frames? Well, if you have a look at this picture here, it's often to make the pictures or photographs stand out, or to draw our eye to them, or to give a contrast between the background wall and the photograph or painting. If we return to Mrs. Carl's photograph that she took a couple of years ago in Spain, she's actually used the archway here as a frame for her photograph of the Mediterranean Sea. So we could call this a natural frame. She hasn't bought a frame for the photograph, she's used what was there. And by framing the photograph, our eye is drawn to the sea at the back. It's provided us with a focal point. Now, in the environment there are lots of natural frames. Mr. Jackson spotted this while we were walking along the river near Amwell Nature Reserve, and he's used the fencing as a natural frame for part of the nature reserve, and it actually draws our eye just to this bit, just to that bit of water. Frames don't need to be rectangular. Here I actually crawled inside a bush, and I noticed that I had a lovely picture of Hertford Castle, and it was almost framed by an evergreen bush here. And I think the fact that I was very near the tree, the bush, and Hertford Castle was in the distance makes the frame work even more effectively. Here we've got a former window which is acting as a natural frame for the conifer tree, and Mrs. Carr spotted this while she was out on one of her daily walks. And I think what works well here is that the frame, or the ancient brickwork, is quite dull and it's one colour, and then the quite vibrant colours of the grass and the tree really stand out, and your eye is drawn to that straight away through the frame of the window. Oh, this is a lovely one. Now, here are some bike racks,
and they've made a fantastic natural frame for this very excitable dog. Now, the thing is, if you didn't look closely, you probably wouldn't see that that's a natural frame. So Mrs. Carr has spent a good couple of hours looking at her environment, looking at the surroundings to see which objects work as a natural frame for a subject. So, your challenge. Well, your challenge this week is to find and photograph a natural frame in the local area. I would also like you to explain why you chose the view and where you took the photograph. Now, here are some hints and tips. Make sure the view is worth taking. I thought, wow, look at that. That makes a lovely frame, this part of this church building, but then I looked at the view behind it and the view's unpleasant, isn't it? However, after looking closely, I realised that there were more frames like this in the churchyard, and actually I had much better views through them. So you've got a very peaceful church courtyard and a rose tree there. So it is worth taking time with your photographs, making sure you've not only got the frame, but you've got a decent view as well. Now, I got very excited about this one. I thought, wow, there's a double frame there, but can you spot the recycling bins at the back? So some lovely Victorian, these are Victorian, they're not actually windows, but they're just holes in walls, and the double one I thought provide a brilliant natural frame, but it is spoilt. The view is not worth taking, really, is it? Now, archways make great frames. This one's in Cheshunt and this one's in Hertford. And once again, I think it's the contrast between usually the older brickwork of the archway and then the more vibrant colours in the view. Trees and bushes make fantastic frames as well. The first image is from Google Images, but you can see how the trunks of the two larger trees have made a brilliant frame for the smaller tree, which made smaller tree in the distance. This one we've talked about before, the leaves on a bush, and here I used the trunk of a tree and its branches to frame Hertford Castle. Looking at it now, I think if I'd actually crouched down a bit more, Hertford Castle would have been in the distance, but underneath this branch here. So it doesn't have to be a building, a window, an archway, a fence. It can be something totally natural like a tree or a bush, or even a hole in a bush. Now, can you guess what I've used as a natural frame here? This is actually the view through the top of a litter bin, which is near the river in Hertford. And it's worked quite well, I think, because it has holes on all four sides, so that I actually got 3 views for the price of 1 here. Again, I spent a lot of time and I had to crouch down. That litter bin is probably only the height of my waist, so I wouldn't usually see that view if I was walking along the river. So I had to crouch down before I could actually take in the fact that you can see through, and you have got 3 different views there. What do you think of this natural frame? What would your views be? Now, initially I thought, I've spotted something here. It's an old mill at the back of Hertford. But in fact, I'm not as pleased with it because I don't think there's enough contrast between the view and the frame. It possibly would have worked better if it had been brighter that day, because I think we would have had more vibrant colours at the back. It's a good frame, but I think the colouring in the view hasn't worked very well. So, to recap, the idea and the focus of the Really Looking units are to go outside, to look closely and to be creative. So just some points. The photos must be your own work. So we're not looking for a photograph that you found on Google Images or one that you've had in your scrapbook for many years. We're looking for one that you've gone out and actually taken yourself. I'd like you to explain where you took the photo and why you chose it. Don't do anything dangerous just to get a good photo. And take an adult with you. If you explain the challenge, they could help you to find some natural frames. So good luck and have fun, and look forward to seeing your creations.